Hi class, have I got a treat for you? Today I'm going to be reading The Janitor's Boy, Chapter 12, Chewology, and the author is Andrew Clements. I know it's been a long time coming, but now I'm able to use the computer more easily now, a little bit better than before, and I am very excited about picking up where we left off with reading the rest of this book, this wonderful book. So if you would like to follow along, you can either look at the screen and follow along, or you can click the link in the description box for the the website that has this same screen on their page. Chapter 12, Chewology. Jack's hour in the library was educational. When he knocked on her door at 2:35, Mrs. Stokely was bustling about behind the glass walls of her office. Smiling, she opened her door, looked him in the face, and immediately said, "You must be John's boy, and you must hear that a lot." Jack nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I hear that pretty often. My name is Jack. I I'm supposed to start cleaning the gum off the bottoms of the chairs and tables." The librarian's face darkened. Shaking her head, she said, "It burns me up the way kids leave that stuff around." Then, smiling at Jack again, she said, "Well, it's sure nice of you to lend your dad a hand. If it weren't for his help, I'd had never got this place ready for the opening of school. And I've still got plenty to do, believe you me." Jack didn't correct Mrs. Stokely's misunderstanding about why he was working. Instead, he nodded and said, "Well, better get busy." So this lady is thinking that Jack is being kind by offering help to his dad, but instead he's going to be cleaning the gum off the tables and so forth because he's being punished for a bad behavior. Okay? So I'm on the second sentence on this page. The high school library was a big room. 14 large wooden tables ran in 2 rows down the center of the space. The old card catalog stood on massive cast iron legs to the left of the circulation desk. There were 3 computer terminals on top of it now, 3 screens dark except for blinking cursors. Working first on the pair of tables nearest the circulation desk, Jack was tricked. He thought, "This is going to be a breeze." There were only 6 or 7 wads of gum per table, and most of them were not sticky at all. He didn't even have to tip the tables on their sides, but was simply able to lean over and reach up with the putty knife. He only had to use the offit 2 or 3 times. But as Jack worked his way toward the back of the deep room, the volume of gum increased dramatically. Distance from the library equals safer chewing equals more gum. By the time he reached the 7th and 8th tables, Jack was digging and chipping his way through gum that was sometimes more than half an inch thick. He felt like an archaeologist performing an excavation, examining clues left by a vanished civilization, Minnesota Jack and the Temple of Goo. He began to count gum layers, like counting growth rings on a tree stump. He noticed the subtle difference in color between peppermint and spearmint gum, the sharp contrast in scent and texture between chewing gum and bubble gum. Examining the deposits from recent years, Jack found an extraordinary range of colors. There were blues of every shade and at least 15 different pinks. There were deep reds, bright turquoises, and soft aquamarines. Brilliant oranges, glaring yellows, and muted greens of a dozen different hues rounded out the spectrum. Occasionally, a group of gum wads would suggest an image to Jack's wandering mind, like cloud formations on a summer afternoon. He saw a shape that reminded him of his grandfather's face. He saw cars and houses, birds, and an elephant. Mrs. Stokely interrupted. She had her coat and hat on. Looking into the bucket where Jack had been dropping the scrapings, she said, "My goodness, I had no idea there could be that much gum in here. And you're only a little more than half done." Jack groaned inwardly at that. "Well, good night, and be sure to pull the door shut when you go, Jack." Jack looked up at the clock. He had another 15 minutes. Back on task and thinking scientifically now, Jack noticed how the gum formed two crude, overlapping semicircles on the bottom of the table above each chair. 4 chairs, 8 semicircles, simple. 1 semicircle for the right-handed gum stickers, the other for lefties. The radius of each semicircle was about the length of a kid's arm, from the elbow to the fingertips. He observed that, overall, kids using fingers to jam gum onto the table outnumbered those using thumbs. Jack also noticed that kids using their left hand to offload gum were twice as likely to use their thumb as the kids using their right hand. The fluorescent lights were not quite bright enough to create clear contrast, but on some of the wads he could see perfect fingerprints pressed into the gum. Jack thought, "I wonder if Ackerby knows about this." By the end of his hour in the library, Jack was ready to give a long and scholarly lecture. A Very Sticky Decade by Professor Jack Rankin, Chairman, Department of Zoology. Hurrying back to the empty shop, Jack put his stuff away in the supply closet. Then he had a thought. He got another plastic bucket from the stack and knocked the day's gum scrapings into it. He estimated that it was about a half-gallon of chewed gum of every color imaginable. Grinning, he set the bucket in the corner. Maybe a gallon or 2 of dead gum could be used for something. At the very least, it was interesting, in a creepy, disgusting sort of way. Then Jack moved fast, hoping to be gone before anyone came. He pulled a piece of paper out of his backpack and wrote a hurried note. "Dear Dad, I didn't take the bus, so can I ride home with you? I'm going to find a quiet place and do homework. I'll meet you back here at 5, okay? Jack." He left the note on his dad's desk, weighed it down with the stapler, and turned on the lamp. His dad would be sure to see it. Then he grabbed his coat and backpack and headed for the stairs. He had almost an hour and a half. The tower was waiting. Okay, and that is the end of chapter 12. I'm very curious to find out what's going to take place in chapter 13. And I am so hoping that Jack mends his relationship with his father. I'm guessing so pretty soon. And I want to thank you all for watching. I had such a fun time with you today. Like and subscribe. See you in the next one.